Join the FNRad Patreon to directly support the show, please. There's a giveaway happening for a Death Label Boneless snowboard and a pair of Union Ultras. Check out the link in our Instagram bio for more information. Season 10 is presented by Flojoy Water, Chris Roach's family business. Refresh your style with Flojoy Artesian Mountain Water. Pure water, pure stoke. And Essential Toothpaste Tabs. Earth-friendly, adventure-ready toothpaste. Clean ingredients, supported by science. Wired Snowboards factory in Vancouver builds high-quality custom snowboards for about the same price as other brands' regular boards. I've created several one-of-a-kind wired customs, including a Chase 162 that's seen hundreds of my best powder days. Get yourself a game-changing snowboard and join the Wired team with Devin Walsh, Sasha Daly, and many others. Wired Snowboards. For more information, go to wiredsnowboards.com. Fixed bindings are my go-to for all my snowboards because they're comfortable, durable, and look rad. Fix makes bindings I want to ride. Simple, lightweight, and dependable, made from the best materials, using the most environmentally friendly production processes possible. They offer lifetime warranty on bases and buckles. If you're looking for affordable performance bindings in the perfect color to match your fit, go to fixbindingco.com or grab them at your local retailer. Bluebird Coffee Tuning and Rentals in Squamish is the coolest new stop on your way to Whistler. Bluebird offers quality board tunes using state-of-the-art equipment, premium rentals for every level of rider with demos of Burton step-ons, and award-winning coffee and incredible smoothies. For a blend of expert knowledge, convenience, and lots of charm, stop by Bluebird in Squamish and get your board tuned at the newest mandatory stop on your way to Whistler. Rip Curl's anti-series outerwear is engineered to keep you warm, dry, and comfortable no matter where your adventure takes you. Ridden by pros like Chris Rasman, Rip Curl is built to perform in any mountain conditions all over the world. The Rip Curl Planet program means they create outerwear with recycled materials and sustainable practices, so stay protected, stay warm, and join Rip Curl in protecting the planet. Shop the anti-series today at ripcurl.com and authorized dealers. Pro Standard makes the grill mount the best mount for your Insta360 GoPro or DJI camera. It's a heat-moldable mouth mount, tripod, hand grip, hook mount, bottle mount, wall mount, clamp mount, glove mount, and shoe mount, designed by snowboard legend Ken Ockenbach to get you the perfect angle for snowboarding, surfing, biking, and it'll replace 90% of your other mounts. Use code FNRad to get 20 off your first order at prostandard.com. Support also comes from our friends at the Boardroom Snowboard Shop. Check out boardroomshop.com and use code FNRAD10 for 10% off regular priced items and FNRAD5 for 5% off sale items. 1910, the collaborative artworks of Jamie Lynn and Scof. FNRAD20 saves you 20% off at 1910.com. New Greens, the superfood green drink sourced from American farms. Use code FNRAD for 20% off at newgreens.com. I want to thank DeKine Snowboard outerwear, travel bags, and backpacks, and our friends at Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, and Cypress Mountain for their support. Scandanavian legend PJ Gustafsson's episode finally gets released to the world after 2 years of holdups. The Swedish rock star of snowboarding graces FNRad with some of his incredible life story. PJ speaks candidly about brain injury and heavy alcohol and drug use, recovery, and the challenge of taking care of yourself while chucking meat and throwing parties for a living. I absolutely love this guy. You will too. Here's my interview with PJ Gustafsson.
I guess, I am still I am still professional though, but I mean, what is pro? It's
that's a great conversation we could have, because it's been changing so much in the last 20 years.
I mean, I'm professional since this is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't consider myself a professional compared to like all the like young kids out there, and like, but it is what it is, you know. It's like, this is what I do, this is what I love, and I don't plan on doing anything else.
Nice.
Like for as long as I can snowboard, you know. So as long as there's brands that want to support me and like people that want to support me, I'm just happy, and I try to do the best I can, you know, with the body I have. Like, it's like, I mean, you get older and you don't want to. I've been beaten up so many times, and it wasn't even like a long time ago I was like really seriously injured. So it's like, and you start a family and you get other, like, you start thinking about other stuff, like you just don't want to get like end up in a wheelchair or whatever. So it's, I mean, I don't challenge myself. I don't like push myself as hard. Of course not as when I was 20, 25.
Yeah.
But I still try to push myself sometimes too hard for for my age, you know. And so yeah, I don't know, it's like, I'm just happy to still be able to do this, and happy to show my kids that, like, whatever you want to do, like, as long as you're really committed to it, you can, like, you can always find a way to do it if you're like 100% committed to it. Like, I mean, of course I had like a dream, like I dreamt when I was a kid, I dreamt about being a skateboard pro. But growing up where I grew up in Sweden, where it was like winter about 6 months a year.
Yeah.
There was no indoor parks or anything, and you had to, like, skating in the winters, you had to like sneak into parking garages, and sometimes you be skating in there like super dirty, and like you could be in there for like 10 or 20 minutes, and then security came and threw you out.
Yeah.
And you were back on square one. So like, I think the first indoor park we had, the closest one to me was in Stockholm when I was a kid, and it was still like 2.5 hour bus ride.
Oh wow.
To go there. And
so you're not hanging out there after school every day?
No. It was like a day trip.
Yeah.
To go there, and I wasn't even allowed to go there alone on the bus before I was maybe 14 or something, I think. Yeah. And we had a really good crew back home, with like probably around 10 people, like 10 kids that were like skating every day.
Sick.
That was pretty much what we did.
Yeah.
You skated to school, like from school, and then you just like went skating.
I don't know too much about Sweden, but I would imagine, you know, fairly traditional value. Yeah. So the kids that are skateboarding are maybe thought of as like a little bit of outsiders, a little bit of like, hey, what are you doing? Get a job, cut your hair, that kind of thing. Yeah,
and especially like I was coming from punk rock and skating and being like a punk.
Yeah.
And
were you exposed to like Swedish death metal and stuff like that? Is that a
Yeah, not until later, actually. I was just listening to mostly Swedish punk rock.
So there's a cool Swedish punk scene as well?
Yeah,
like same sort of deal?
Yeah.
Dope.
And we also have like so many of the like skate punk bands coming from my city.
Cool.
Some of them that turn into like super famous. Shout out to Milan Collin, my friend.
Here we are again with another bunch of songs.
Yeah, so skateboarding in late 80s and early 90s, and especially like in Sweden, it was such a small community. You knew, I mean, if you didn't know everyone, you still knew who they were.
Yeah.
Like in all of Sweden, pretty much. Like,
right.
Yeah, because
right.
it was like such a small. Such a small group of people that were skating. So, and doing that and like reading all the skateboard magazines and.
Were Johan and Ingemar kind of larger than life by that point, or were did they come out of that same scene?
Yeah, that was later actually. Maybe around like 90. I think Johan and Ingmar maybe like 90, probably like around 94, 95 or something maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that big Ingmar hits like probably 95 or 96.
Yeah.
Around that time.
Yeah. I mean, everyone, so many people, like Ingmar was skating for a shop called G-Spot that had skate shops like, several places in Sweden.
Sick.
And so he was skating and known as a skater in Sweden, I guess, before he got known as a snowboarder.
Cool.
Or maybe that was just where we lived. Like we knew him as a skateboarder.
Yeah.
But of course he was still like snowboarding, and up where he lives, everyone knew he was snowboarding, but we saw him in the G-Spot video and like, okay.
So there was like a local video. There was like a local scene going on. That was that was a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, that you're like, okay, I want to be a part of this stuff.
Exactly.
Where were the Tromsø guys from? Is that also in Sweden?
Tromsø is Norway.
Norway. Yeah. So they had a scene too. Like, so all these Scandinavian countries had their sub scene.
Yeah.
But then was there like a Scandinavian pro tour kind of thing, or like AM tour, or European
skateboarding had we had some tours, skateboard tours or contests, and like cup, like Swedish cup.
Oh, cool.
And I was never like into competing like skateboard contests. I probably did like maybe 5 skateboard contests my whole life.
They're so daunting, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know that I ever did one. There's some footage that came out of a contest that I went to, and all my friends competed in it, and I'm there skating around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder why I didn't go in it.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
No, and I don't think like competing in skateboarding it wasn't like really a thing. We were more like the crew I was part of, we were more like into just street skating, and not because that's what we had where we grew up. Like we didn't have a skate park or anything, and so we were more like street skating and raging in the streets, you know.
It's inseparable. I think that's the point that we're getting to when we realized that the tape had gone out.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, signing on to be a skateboarder at the time, most people were also, there was like drugs coming through, counterculture, drinking, partying.
Yeah.
Like that was, it was like a freedom. But in hindsight, you weren't free to just be like, hey, actually, you know what I like to do is paint pictures and be quiet and read books. Like that's not going to happen, right?
No.
You're going out and you're trying to one up each other in the crazy shit that you do.
Yeah.
And then the videos started to
Yeah.
reflect that. Remember, that late
totally.
80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
It was
we were like, I was never, as a kid, I was never a fan of like Bones Brigade or anything. Like
right.
That came later. It was like Alva 100%. Like Alva, those guys were on that team. Those were the coolest,
Yeah,
like,
they were partying hard.
Yeah. Like leather jackets and all that was like punk rock. So
we met Fred Smith when we were skateboard kids.
Yeah.
And it was like a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Like, because he was a tough guy.
That's what I could, like, relate to. The whole image and what they were doing. And many of those guys as well. Like, I mean, of course, there were tons of guys on the Alva team that were competing, but there were also tons of guys on the Alva team that didn't give a fuck about competing. So
totally.
I was like, yeah, those were the coolest when I started, and like Mario Rubalcaba and I guess like also not having a skate park and all the trouble you got into really early as a kid for skateboarding.
Yep.
As well got you into a point where it was like maybe you didn't hate the society, but it was still like we're not part of it. You look like,
yes. Yeah. And then when you're like that, it's like, hey, we're breaking the law of skateboarding.
Yeah. So why
smoke a bit of reefer? Who gives a shit?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like alcohol and stuff just came so early.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like hanging out, skating in the streets at night, and like someone had like come over some beers or like stolen some beers from their parents or whatever.
Yeah.
And like,
very early on.
Yeah. Super early, and like, so probably.
Does Sweden have a drinking age?
Yeah. So you have to be 18 to drink like a bar or restaurant or something, but to buy alcohol, like we have those special stores called Systembolaget, where you have to go if you're going to buy alcohol that's stronger than 3.5%.
Okay.
So you can only buy alcohol that's up to 3.5 in a grocery store.
Okay.
Otherwise, you have to go to that special store.
But as a kid, you could do that if you wanted a 3.5% beer.
No, you have to be 18.
You have to be 18.
But, I mean...
18-year-olds are little kids. So
yeah.
If you went when you were 15, you could...
There was never a problem. It was like some older guys that were skating as well in our crew. And it was like... Getting like 3.5 beers was super easy.
Yeah.
And also getting like moonshine.
Oh, wow.
Back then was super
well, see,
easy.
this is the thing that I noticed as a kid. When we crossed into the States, the drinking age for us was 19 and for them was 21.
Yeah.
So it was so much more difficult for them to get alcohol that it was more like drug culture.
Yeah.
Because it's like that. So I always remember feeling like, oh shit, they get pushed into drugs here because alcohol is so hard to come by.
Yeah.
So
I think so too. Yeah. So like drinking started early.
Yeah.
And it's like we talked about, the whole scene, especially back then, like skateboarding and later on even snowboarding, was so much encouraging alcohol and drugs with like everything, like the movies, the graphics, like the board graphics, like especially when you looked at Flip and those guys.
Sure.
Like,
and then the community, the gatherings, they were all built around
everything,
parties and music and alcohol and excess, right?
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to win a party, you had to get fucking gassed.
Crazy.
And do something insane. Right.
Yeah, and it was also like way like you could kind of even get noticed by being a crazy party animal.
Mike Rankwit.
Yeah. Like
Kearns and Johnson eventually.
Yeah.
You know, the Whiskey crew, the Skids crew.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And like, for me, that was like slowly, I think it went back then. I thought it went like I slowly became that like person, but of looking back at it, of course it wasn't going so slowly. It was going pretty fast, but you start to become a person that other people like kind of expects you to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I think more importantly for me, I expected myself to be that.
Yeah.
Like I put a lot of pressure on myself to be the fun drinking party guy who's going to do something crazy.
Yeah.
When maybe even people were like not only not expecting it, but like wishing I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, oh, damn, it'd be nice to just go to a nice restaurant and have a nice meal without it ending with, a food fight or some drunk guy doing something stupid. Yeah. But I really felt that pressure. And I think a lot of people in the generation I'm in felt that pressure, of course.
Yeah. And I don't think at first I didn't feel like the pressure. Mm-hmm. It just kind of just happened. But definitely later, I didn't start snowboarding super early because my parents didn't want me to, because they thought it was too dangerous, and snowboarding wasn't so big in the 80s and early 90s in Sweden. It kind of, I think probably around 94 when I started snowboarding, or when I got my first board, that's when it started to blow up.
Yeah. By 98, it had really turned a corner with the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then parents started to be like, oh shit, you can go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Cool.
So when I started snowboarding and then eventually got my first sponsors, it went pretty fast. I got my first sponsor, I think, after like 2 seasons or something.
Cool.
And
who was that?
My first sponsor was initially a shop sponsor, but they were also having the distribution of Sims snowboards. And later on Palmer snowboards. So I started riding for them and Sims.
Sick.
For the distribution.
What era of Sims? Like Al Clark pro model kind of era?
Yeah. So it was probably 96 or something. Yeah, around should have been 96. I got my first board sponsor from them. And I had been riding in Noah Salasnik, of course, the 94 one with the
skate trucks. The nub.
That was my first one.
So dope, dude.
And so I was like riding the Noah boards, and then so it was kind of like when they asked me to ride for them and for Sims, it was like, yeah. And Palmer was a big hero for me as well.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Well, you look at Palmer, the quotes of Palmer being like, drank Jack Daniels last night, 7 beers so far, and I'm going to win it. And then he wins.
Yeah, and that was so cool.
That was, that was the epic age.
So, and starting to riding for them and being the person who I was, and back then competing, and we were like partying at pretty much all the contests we went to, or we were partying at all the contests. I was probably partying until my run on most of the contests.
Right.
And in maybe if we up to like in 98 or something, it was like I was doing really, really well in the Swedish contests. And even though I was like drinking, partying like a freak. So it was like, well, it was just not even a question. Not having a beer or something before your run I didn't even think about it. It was just like, oh, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And being able to like go in a city big air contest and standing on top of the sketchy scaffolding ramp in the finals and just like have a beer, and the people starting to like, oh, that guy, he's such a, and sponsors start to look at that as well and think that, oh, that guy's cool. He's like partying nonstop and still like ending up in finals and
that's dope.
In contests and stuff. So,
but then it's not 100% great because how can you sustain that?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And also, if you're competing drunk and high, then getting sober is going to fuck your career first and foremost, right? Like it's like, are you going to be able to even do your job?
Yeah.
Like taking the edge off a little, and being relaxed and loose, right?
Yeah. It's like almost like starting over.
Yeah.
In a way, like
of course it is. Yeah,
because everything feels so much more scary.
That's it.
And just being at an event, being sober is super scary.
Was there an incident that happened where you're like, okay, enough is enough. I need to kick this? Or was it like kind of slowly over time you're like, well, I really wish I could, like, I don't want to stop the snowboarding part, but it'd be kind of nice to, not have have that pressure to be, drunk or whatever, take the edge off.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, when I had my first kid, my first son, Dylan, I was like trying to slow down a bit.
Yeah.
And, but it was hard because I've been through so many, like before that, I had been to so much traumatic experiences that I was having like a really hard time to cope being around lots of people and stuff like that and be sober. But I think like I kind of wanted to get more like take it easier and not party so much when I got my first kid, but then it was always something that happened that like drew me back to it, you know, like
Sure.
I could be like sober for a couple of weeks
Yeah.
max, and then it's like back to normal. Like,
Well, that's what baseline was for you. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't anyone telling me you have to drink, but when you know that everyone is like looking at you as that guy,
Yeah.
it becomes that you fulfill, or what you say, like there's a saying for it, like it's
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah,
That's the one.
yeah,
So the story I'm telling myself is that there was trauma there.
yeah,
That is something very important to share, or that's something very important in the story
yeah,
that you've lived of your life.
yeah,
And so I didn't have so much of that. So I kind of get uncomfortable around it. You know what I mean? And I think most people do
yeah,
get uncomfortable around trauma.
yeah,
And I think that's the reason that we're in the spots that we're in, where you can go on so long self-medicating
yeah,
and not getting help from your community, because your community's like, fucking have a beer, man.
exactly,
Fucking chill out.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
worry
yeah.
about it. We all have our thing.
Yeah,
But really,
yeah, and cheer up and all that. It's
exactly,
like,
exactly. But the traumatic events really push you into that. It feels like two walls that you're trying to get through, but like the harder you push through, the tighter it is.
yeah,
It doesn't. I don't know. I've felt it like on a low level.
Yeah.
But I could tell that you, and we've talked about it before. You had it on a like a life level.
yeah. It's like, I think things really escalated for me when we're talking about substance abuse. So I've had my first pro model back in 2001 for a big skateboard company from Scandinavia that was called Alice.
Cool.
But they were going into snowboarding, so they were like, "Oh, we want to do a snowboard with you."
Sick.
And that was perfect. They were like based out of Christiania in Denmark, and
That's
I was like, it was a perfect fit.
I know about Christiania, but maybe the listeners don't.
Yeah, it's like a free town where it's not legal, like cannabis and like organic drugs, like mushrooms and whatever is not legal, but it's like a gray zone. Like sometimes the cops come there and do something like a razzia.
Sure.
But it's very rarely. And
it's not just the drugs though. They're squatting in buildings.
Yeah.
They're like, so it was a commune type. Like they were like, we're not going to have money, and this is going to be so like it, and it's had a long history.
Yeah,
40 years or 50 years now or something.
And so Alice was like the second shop, the second shop to the right when you entered Christiania, and they like always supporting skateboard events and everything, and doing so much awesome stuff for skateboarding and for like the whole street culture, like
cool,
supporting hip hop artists and
dope,
all kinds of stuff. And so they wanted to go into snowboarding, so I started to ride for them at the same time as I was actually riding for Palmer snowboarding. And was just like took probably just a year. I was spending so much time there and staying at the the owner Albert, his house that was in Christiania as well. So I was like spending so much time there and talking about this snowboard, like going into snowboarding, and yeah. So they wanted to make a board with me, and they made a board, and it went like really well, and they even had a shop in Melrose in LA.
Oh, wow.
They opened up a shop there.
What? That's so insane.
Yeah. So they sold my board there, and like the first board was like even sold more boards in Denmark, which is a really small market.
Tiny
of course.
market.
But my first promo board sold more boards than Burton Snowboards did as a whole in Denmark that year,
God,
which was a pretty
awesome.
Cool thing.
That's amazing.
Like, it's a super small market, but it was still fun to know that, it sold more. So anyways, they were really stoked. And so the second year, I was getting another board from them. And that year was like, contests were going like really well. I did like some contests that went good and everything. And then like middle of the season, I had like really, really bad crash. And I hit my head so hard on a jump and like passed out and didn't remember like anything when I woke up.
Oh man.
Like was just like blank. Like couldn't even remember. Like my best homie, that's still my best homie, was there with me, and I was like, I barely even recognized his face.
Damn.
It was just like, whoa, super sketchy. And so I had like a very serious head trauma. And like we're talking 2001 in Sweden. I don't know about here, but in Sweden, like they didn't know how like serious things can get like afterwards. Like I was treated for it and all that, but like still afterwards, there's today people like they know that, oh, you have like one concussion and it can make you feel like sad and anxious and stuff for like years afterwards. But back then was like, oh, okay, you probably, at first they told me like, oh, you could probably snowboard again in like a couple of months.
Yeah.
And so, and they didn't say anything about drinking or anything about stuff like that.
Right.
And so...
Which is good. So you're not snowboarding now, are you partying more?
Yeah.
Fuck,
so
right.
I was feeling like I was having so bad like headache pretty much all the time. And the only time the headache stopped, of course, was when I was partying.
Yeah.
So I was like drinking, partying, going to snowboard events and like jumping around and like partying. And then trying after a couple of months going back to snowboarding again. And like I could just like do an ollie, like, and like the smallest impact would have my whole head like fucking.
Oh no!
Like, so I was like, oh, what is this? How long is this gonna is it going to be like this forever? So I talked to my parents about it, and I was like, yes, I still don't feel good at all. And so I went to another hospital, actually, not the one where I initially were where I got when the ambulance took me from the ski resort.
Yeah.
So I went to another hospital in a bigger city, and the doctor I met there was probably a lifesaver for me at that time, because he just like, the first thing he told me was like, oh, could you just like stand on one leg here for a second? And he was supposed to ask me to close my eyes and stand on one leg, but I could barely like stand without like waving my arms on one leg.
With eyes open.
With eyes open. And he was like, yeah, so we have to go and do, you have to go and do
MRI or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
on your, we have to go and check your brain.
Yeah.
And then they found out that the thing that they first thought at the first hospital I went like a couple of months ago was that, oh, this won't need any like surgery. It's going to be fine.
Right.
But they found out like there was so much blood in the back of my head that was like, it was like swollen. So it was like putting so much pressure on my brain.
Oh my God.
And the doctor said like, oh, this is like really serious. Like, if I can't even imagine that you've been snowboarding, because like, actually if you just like walk out of here and slip on a pad of ice and land on your butt, you could like end up in a wheelchair and be like a what do you say, a vegetable for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and you were feeling that while you're snowboarding. You're like, oh, you do a little ollie, land, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
fuck.
like I just couldn't take more than one run, and I was feeling like super bad. And, like,
dude!
Every time I tried to watch TV or anything, it was like, it didn't work.
So once they caught this, what happens?
Yeah, so the doctor tells me like, oh, like you're not gonna be able to. I don't think you're ever should go back to snowboarding again after this, because this is such a serious hit. You shouldn't do any like impact sports or anything at all where like, and they kept track of me. I had to go back, like at first it was like super regularly, like after a while it was like one time per month or so, and they did like check that it was like, and when did like new brain scans and everything, and checked that everything was going in the right direction.
That's how serious it was.
Yeah.
That it was a few months before it was even once a month.
Yeah.
Like you were going there every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Oof.
And I even lost like, was it like 20% vision on my left eye because of that, you know. So the doctor told me like, oh, you shouldn't go back to snowboarding at all, and I was devastated, you know, about that.
Of course.
And I think like my parents, of course, I didn't think it was a good thing that the injury happened or anything like that, but they were still like, oh, maybe now he can like do something else.
Cut his hair, get a job, stop drinking beer, the whole thing. Yeah. So they were actually kind of like talked me into starting to study again, you know, which I was like not feeling, but at the point like
yeah, I was like, what can I do? Like, my sponsors are gonna drop me if I'm not going back to snowboarding very soon, and like because no one had any understanding for like the brain injuries, because you couldn't. It was something that you couldn't see.
Yeah, I remember thinking like hitting my head, getting my bell rung, and then being like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to skate lightly."
Yeah.
From here on in. And then, I don't know, 6 months, sometimes 6 weeks, 6 months, you're back to 100%. And you go, okay, well, that's done.
Yeah, yeah. And I like, before this, had hit my head hard. Probably, I don't know, I probably had like 10 concussions even before this happened.
Yeah.
And maybe on paper, like 4 or something like that.
Right.
So, but no one was still like 2001, 2002. No one was really talking about like that and what actually happens. And yeah, so I wasn't supposed to snowboard anymore. And the thing, now I'm jumping back a little bit, because during this time also my girlfriend passed away.
Oh man.
So really, like, in an accident, like got the message on my birthday. And
so sorry, dude.
Yeah. So it was just like too much.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Like,
that would be a lot for anybody.
I don't have snowboarding. I'm not going to have snowboarding anymore. And my girlfriend died, and just like 2 months after that, I think, yeah, about 2 months after, one of my best friends passed away, also in an accident, in a fire. So it was just like so much happening. It was like unreal.
That's a lot of hurt.
Yeah, it was like unreal. So I just started partying. Like, okay, I'm gonna go study, and start to study to become a nurse. And but after the summer, and I was just like partying the whole spring, whole summer, like pretty much non-stop. One of my friends that was living next door to me was like partying a lot, and we were just like, staying up all night, like partying, and starting doing this studies after the summer, and I wasn't even like feeling it at all. I felt like this is not me. It's not like something I want to do. It's something my parents want me to do. And I stayed for maybe 1.5 months. And then I was like, fuck it.
Peace.
I'm not going to do this anymore.
I mean, interjecting here, it would have been nice, especially with the major head injury.
Yeah.
The loss of girlfriend, good friend. Like that would have been a good time to start, some therapy.
Yeah,
Were there counseling sessions that were?
No, nothing like that. No. I was just like pushing everything away through alcohol, basically, like, and having been that person for so long. Like, I don't think friends even like thought something
was up, right?
No,
right,
because
you were still doing the same thing you were doing before.
Yeah. And so the thing that happened was actually my stomach started to become like really, really bad, or act really bad.
You weren't getting proper nutrition, probably, right?
So I thought it was about like at first when I got to see a doctor for it. They first thought that it was because I had been to Greenland on a trip being a snowboard judge on the Greenland Championships. So they thought I had some bacteria or something.
Parasite, yeah.
There.
Ate some like fermented eel or some crazy shit.
I ate so much weird stuff like seal and everything. Like,
yeah.
So they thought it was something like that. So they started looking at like all possibilities, doing like all the swallowing the camera and
my God,
getting the camera stuck up your ass and all that.
Yeah.
And like couldn't find anything wrong with it, with me. Like, but I was still like I had to go to the toilet like so often. Like sometimes I went to the bathroom like probably like 6-7 times a day or something like that.
That's a lot.
Like, so after a while I got to meet a doctor, a female doctor, that said, you know what, has there been anything like happening in your life recently? Or so that I was like, oh, maybe not recently, but like, so I told her like about a year ago and a half, and I told her about like first the head injury and then my girlfriend and one of my best friends and all that. And she was like, you know what, like the stomach is actually a mirror to your soul. Like if you're not feeling well mentally, one of the first thing that usually happens is that your stomach is gonna be acting weird. So she told like we have to start looking at what you've been through. I think that's what's gonna make your stomach become better.
Smart doctor.
Yeah. So that's actually when I love her still. Like, and so that's pretty much like the first turning point for me.
It was still quite some time before you'd give up drinking and partying, though.
Yeah. But that was like the first like turning point.
That's good. That's good that you've. I mean, trying to figure that out on your own without support. Is
because that's
impossible.
When I started getting into. Like I first started going to therapy sessions, and I was so lucky. I met my therapist, which I got in contact with in 2002. He's been with me until like pretty much like until about 4 years ago when he retired.
Wow.
So he was like, he was, he's been like the best.
That's rad.
He's meant so much to me. He's been through like the worst periods of my life and coming out on the other side and like being where I am today, and like it was just like I know today I was so lucky that it was him that I met, because I met other people along the way that had, you know, the chemistry and everything has
Totally.
it's so important. But
I've had probably 5 therapists, maybe. I had 2 therapists that I went to regularly.
Yeah.
And, you know, so the other 3, it was like instantly not a good fit. Or the first one, I thought I felt better after. So I was like, okay, well, that's that.
Yeah.
I'm not going back to her.
Yeah.
She fixed me. She gave me like kind of a shortcut to like control my anxiety.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that's what I needed.
Yeah.
That I realized I need a little bit more support than that.
Yeah.
But I fully feel what you're saying about, you can't just go in, even if the therapist is an amazing therapist, they might not be an amazing fit for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like the first turning point, and especially for getting like, first time I felt like, okay, this is someone that understands me and that I can talk to about anything. I could talk to him about like anything, like stuff that I didn't share with my best friend, or stuff that I definitely wouldn't share with my parents or anything. We could talk about anything.
That's what the therapist is there for.
Yeah. And I was also at this time, that time when I started to get like suicidal and starting to feel like, drinking wasn't like partying, and partying wasn't like for fun or anything. It was just like something you did to cope.
Yeah.
And cope with your thoughts.
So sorry to hear that, dude. Like, what a difficult
Yeah, it was
path.
just like darkness for probably, for so many times. I mean, so many years. There was like, of course, bright moments here and there.
Yeah, of course.
And I tried to get back into snowboarding, but in like a little bit of a different way. Slowly doing events instead. So I started doing snowboard events, and I was actually really, really good at it. I did around 2003 till the first one was in 2003. I started a contest series called the Dragon Flying Circus.
That's awesome.
Because it was sponsored by Dragon. That was also one of my sponsors that had stayed with me after the accident. So
That's incredible.
So I wanted to do something for them.
Yeah.
Because they had been like, they were like, PJ, we're going to sponsor you even if you're in a fucking wheelchair.
That's cool.
We're still going to be there. And they were like one of the few I had left. So, but they were also one of the sponsors I had that really appreciated my partying side. But anyway, so I wanted to do something for them. So I started doing that event. And at that point, there was not a single event in Sweden that had the same amount of prize money and the same amount of riders. That was also like at the point not completely, but still like very session.
Oh, cool.
Based.
Yeah, that's
it was
dope.
like a session with invited riders, and there were like riders getting like highest air and like best slam and all that, and that was so new. It was like no one did that. that.
That's cool.
Especially not in Sweden anyway.
Yeah,
no one had
a
done
more
that.
fun jam event.
Yeah,
versus
and it was like my vision was like I want to do a snowboard event that I would have wanted to
totally
enter.
That's cool.
So it was like pouring. We had like first year we had like Corona sponsoring the event. We had a beer tent, like a VIP beer tent.
It has to be said,
next to
drinking
the
Coronas is fun.
Yeah.
There is a part of drinking and socializing that's really fun. So I can see how it would be difficult for friends and family to be like concerned about PJ.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, look at him, he's crushing it.
Yeah.
He's got his contest series.
Yeah.
It's sponsored by Corona.
Yeah.
So he's having a blast.
There was like beer tents only for the riders next to the course. Like they could go and have a beer during the session. And like
that's incredible.
The first year, everyone who came to the contest, all the invited riders, like when they came to their free hotel room, there was like a big case, or if it was like even 2 cases of beer just standing in the room waiting for everyone and stuff like that. It was just like party. So everyone loved it. We had like during the years was like Hampus Mosesson, back when Hampus was like the best, the biggest guy. He loved that contest. He was
of course.
Like every year, like Jacob Willemsson, like there was like the guys that went to won the world championships, those guys.
Yeah.
They were coming to the event. So it was like the biggest in Sweden, and after maybe 1 or maybe 2 years, it was definitely like the biggest in Scandinavia with the most prize money, and everyone wanted to go.
So
and
cool.
People even like, I was even saying no to like dope riders because there was no more spots.
Dude, that's insane.
So I was starting to do that, but that also like, it helped me in a way, but it also kept me staying in the snowboarding community. But it also helped me keep on drinking,
of course,
doing all that. Because now I could be like the person I was before again, and like that everyone was like, "Whoa, it's so good to see you, man." What? So doing all that, and other snowboard companies were like slowly coming back and wanted me to start riding for them and stuff like that, even though I wasn't even like riding that. I mean, I was snowboarding, but pretty like just mellow. But like everyone saw that, oh yeah, he's like person that
he's the man.
Yeah. So
did you ever work with Conrad Bergstrom?
No, I know Conrad. I've never worked with him, but I was like I was at pretty much all of his events.
Sick.
And he was doing like some wakeboard festivals as well in the summertime and stuff like that. And I was invited to skate, like doing the demo stuff there, so I could just be there and party for free. And
so he's probably a big influence on your
definitely.
I'm going to do a kick-ass.
Yeah,
I'm going to do a kick-ass contest. I'm going to do a kick-ass gathering.
100. Because I was like invited at all the parties that he did. And,
sick.
Yeah.
He was really influential in Scandinavian.
Yeah.
And it sounds like same. Your contest was like a huge deal.
Yeah. So I did that thing, and it started like the flying circus went on for probably, I think like 5 years, just went bigger. And then I started doing some rail events, like in the city, but not set up with the scaffolding. Instead, we like I was like gonna do a whole new thing. We're just gonna save a shitload of snow from the closest resorts. When they close, we're just gonna put it together and like put tarps and stuff on it
Sick.
and save it, and then we're just gonna have it in the like a slope that's in my hometown, that's like in the city. It's not a ski slope. It's just like in a park. It's like a hill.
Sick. So yeah, like what they're doing with the Bomb Hole Cup and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like
So this-
early versions of that.
So this was like
Street rails, or were you setting up? You were setting up features.
We were setting up features.
So sick.
we had like car and everything, you know, and like there was like a drop. And
So you're building an urban skate park or urban snowboard park.
Yeah. So I started doing that in 2000. I think the first one was in 2005. And same thing there, like nothing else. Like even back then, like international, like, or European snowboard media was covering it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like called Rail Not Jail. Because there's like Sweden's biggest jail is in my hometown.
That's amazing.
So we did that.
So are you calling it Rail Not Jail in English? Or are you,
Yeah, in English. Yeah,
even though it's in Sweden?
yeah.
That's dope. That's rad.
Yeah, so it was like, I think we had about the last year I did it, it was 30,000 Swedish crowns for the winner, which is about which is about like 3,000 euros. And like 2000 and that was 2008, so it was like,
and the euros were worth a lot at that point.
And that was
like double American.
Yeah, and it was like a lot of prize money for an event in Europe. So we had like, you know, like Helgason brothers and like
of course
people from all of Europe coming.
That's fun.
So
how many years you do that for?
That was like between it was 3 or 4 years. And during that time, I guess I was like still parallel to that, making the events, coming back, like slowly coming back more and more to snowboarding as well.
Cool.
Even though the doctor said I shouldn't do it, I was like,
right. It's like,
it was like
6-7 years later, you're feeling better, and you're
So
and you're going to therapy through this whole time. And you're getting better. Yeah,
feeling better, and I was like, I knew like if I hit my head like really hard again, it's gonna be super bad. I hit my head hard maybe like 2 times since then. But then I've also taken really good care of myself afterwards. But yeah, so during this time I also had my first and my second kid, and I think I was starting to feel a lot better, like
about life, generally speaking.
Generally,
yeah, of course,
yeah. But I still didn't know that I was like so vulnerable. Like I was like really vulnerable to like not succeeding, and like if I had a goal set up that I didn't reach, or getting like bad like if someone criticized me or an event or something that happened in an event.
Just under the surface, this
it was just like
terrible trauma
Yeah. So it's just like super, like on the edge the whole time.
You know, the story I'm telling myself, looking from a, you know, outside looking at it, is like a lot of the things, being successful at the contests, you know, coming back to snowboarding, are masking like fear and that self-consciousness of like, oh, if I stop partying, it's going to feel really bad, right? Like, I could be the man out partying and it feels good. And then you wake up in the morning and you're like drawn more to like, oh shit, I need to get back. I need a beer. Like, holy fuck. Like it's masking like self-consciousness, self-doubt, worry, but you're doing it really successfully. Yeah. So people are coming in from out of town going, you're the man, fuck yeah.
Exactly.
Let's have beers. Let's let's shred. Let's go for a fucking drunk shred in the middle of the night. You know?
Yeah.
And so you're successfully doing it. Meanwhile, you're also trying to build your resilience through therapy, taking care of your body, all that stuff. And you're just getting torn in both directions. Having a family, which isn't the easiest thing, actually. No. Having a family adds another level of like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my girlfriend at the time that I was having my first 2 kids with, she like, we had like amazing times, but there was also like a lot of times where I was like, we were just like not getting along and like fighting and like not like fighting physically.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
But like, and I was also, I had such a hard time to fight with her and being like, so almost every time that happened, it was just be me like, whatever, going out, like leave the house or the apartment and go over to one of my friends and start drinking and sleep on the sofa, or, you know.
Of course.
So that was like, I think, God, I've been jumping so much back and forth in the timeline. But it was like, it was a good relationship at first, but it started to become a really unhealthy relationship for sure.
Yeah.
Like, and I wasn't like happy at all, and I knew she wasn't happy, and like,
on top of everything else, that's a challenge. If you had no trauma that you were dealing with, no head injury, and no alcoholism, no drug problems. A relationship it takes a lot of effort. Kids take, like, it's next level. So I can only imagine, you know, you're doing your best, you're trying as hard as you can. But then also you're not 100% healed from what's been happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess I got like pretty burned out after those years doing the contests and all that.
Of course.
And having the kids and trying to handle my relationship and all that. So I was like burned out and felt like, I just want to snowboard again. Like, and I felt like, I can snowboard again. And that was pretty much when I ended up with the Death Label guys from Japan. And
so they kind of knew who you were from before. And they're like, look at your image fits what we're doing. Jesus. I guess. Of course.
So I ended up with the Death Label guys, and one thing led to another, and I started just riding more and more and more again.
Cool.
Like just trying to do it like 100%.
Yeah.
And yeah, getting back to it and started feeling really good. I was like thinking that I'm never ever gonna hit like the biggest like jumps again, because that was like I had like such a big mental block from that accident and all the other thing that happened around that. It was like it felt like a curse. So still to this day, I don't hit like the biggest tabletop jumps. Of course. I've been doing like really big drops. That's okay. And I can do like a hip that's big.
Sure.
But if it's like a tabletop or like a step down and it's like huge, I don't do it. It's just like,
well, that's smart. You don't have to.
Yeah, it's just like...
And I'm sure they're not, obviously not pushing you in that direction.
No. Death Label's been like the best. It's like a family and they've always been like so supportive. I've been pushing myself over the edge a couple of times to make them happy. But still not like, if it's hard pack or icy, I'm not going to hit a jump.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I'm not going to, like, today I'm just like, fuck it. I've done that. I've had, like, I've almost died.
Yeah.
I almost became a
put the whole thing on
vegetable.
the line.
Yeah. I did it all for my sponsors, and there was, like, one of them that stayed with me after that. So,
right.
So fuck it. Fuck
yeah.
them all.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like...
And the theme of this is the internal pressure.
Yeah.
The expectation.
Yeah.
That, like, imagine if how different it would have been if when your girlfriend died, you were like, I'm just going to be a guy whose girlfriend died, so I'm going to be sad for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just claimed that as opposed to being like business as usual. I need to put on a brave face. I need to, hey, maybe drinking will help. And it does, you know, to like not think about it, not deal with it. You know, it's a different path.
Yeah.
And I feel super strongly that I wouldn't want my kids to have that same lack of connection that I felt that there was during my generation. Like, I want them, like, hey, look, it's totally normal to have the full range of emotions, okay?
Yeah.
You don't need to just be happy or angry, you know, like you can also be everything in between.
Yeah.
It's a more fulfilling life. It is a lot less internal pressure, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it sums it up fairly well for me to be like, I hid who I was from other people so well as a child growing up and through school and everything that I began to be able to hide it from myself.
Yeah.
Like, I actually started to think, oh, the person I am is this party guy. That's who I actually am.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like doing that. And so what does that even mean? I don't feel like being myself. Like, that's who I am. How can I not do it?
Yeah.
So I think we've come a long way. And even the like last 2-3 years since we talked.
Yeah.
Like, I went to this place called The Haven at Gabriola. And really what it was a center for just focusing on exactly what you just were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, talking about it in a group of people that are not judging you, or even if they are judging you, it teaches you that that's their thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Their thing doesn't have anything to do with you.
No.
It's really how you feel about yourself inside that's really the most limiting or empowering thing.
exactly.
I fucking love that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're a shining example of like, you had to work at this. It's not something that just comes naturally.
No.
It's not something that's really simple.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit out there.
Yeah, and it's
pitfalls.
Like you said, and definitely in the last 20 years, or since I had the head trauma or the TBI, or
yes,
so many things, positive things have happened when it comes to mental awareness and also brain health, and like taking care of like how you should take care of yourself after having a concussion, or even worse, all of that, because not even doctors knew back then. It was just like, oh, you'll be fine. Like as soon as you're like feel that you're ready to snowboard again, you can go snowboarding again. Today, I think I'm positive a lot of the depression I've had during like the times I've had with like really deep depression I've had has also been because of not only the things that I went through, but because of the head injury.
Of course.
Like, I've been reading so much about head injuries myself and all that, and how to like try to heal your brain and all of that. And it's just like, yeah, of course I was sad when I wasn't able to snowboard, and when I got dropped from sponsors, and when my girlfriend died and my friend died and all that. But going into like a really, really, what do you say, deep depression, or of course there was things happening in my brain besides that because of the injury.
Yeah, that loud noise that just went by.
Yeah.
Like, what a real-time example of like, you know, you're just trying to make a simple decision.
Yeah.
And after a brain injury, that anger that manifests for some people.
Yeah.
Like it's coming from a frustration of like, fucking, it doesn't work the same as it did. I can't get to where I was before. I'm fucking, and the fog feels shitty.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is just from my own experiences of having smaller head injuries where you're like, it's kind of like, fuck, I know I could go and do the things that I normally do.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit afraid to hit my head again, but I'm really fucking angry that I can't just be normal. Like, you can't just wake up in the morning and not have a headache.
Yeah.
Like, not be frustrated with, like, this is taking a long fucking time.
Yeah.
That's my own experiences, so I can't even imagine how it would be for you. I
mean, in the beginning, if we're going back in the timeline again.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, after I got to meet the second doctor that told me this is actually like
something very serious.
Yeah. I mean, like, my memory was so bad, and I had such a hard time. Like, I was always like forgetting words.
Wow.
For things like, I lost. What's that? Like, trying to figure out, like, you know, a spoon or a fork or whatever. Like,
that's classic head injury stuff.
Yeah. So, and that thing, like, still to this day, like, I know, like, I'm not 100% still. Like, I still get like, well, I know the word, but I can't get it out, and it happens.
This is 23 years later.
Yeah, and it happens. I mean, it happens to everybody sometimes. Yeah. But to me, it happens. Like, it happened probably 20 times during this conversation. I mean, I know the words for it, and then I can't get them out.
Yeah. Well, now you're also in your second language.
Yeah, of course.
And all that stuff. But like, this has been ongoing.
If we were doing this in Swedish, it would still be. Oh, I can't. What's the name? Oh, appendix or
same.
Whatever. Yeah,
right.
So I still struggle with that, and it's been, like you said, it's like 23 years.
Well, it's so important that you're sharing your story, because there's so many aspects of it that dovetail with what's going on in snowboarding right now and has been going on forever. Yeah. I think the kids are a little more, obviously, way more aware. Yeah. Everybody's wearing helmets. Everyone all the time is in helmets. I've often found myself being the only dude in like the whole resort where I'm at that's not in a helmet.
Yeah, I just wish, like, for me, I know I'm so fucking stupid. I still don't wear a helmet.
Oh, wow.
After the injury, when I was slowly going back to snowboarding, it was actually a while when I got sponsored by Burn helmets when they were blowing up.
They're huge, yeah.
Yeah. So this was like in the beginning with, like, and they hooked me up they knew my story.
Yeah.
And so I was on the team with like all those guys like TJ and Schneider and everyone, because he was riding for them as well.
Sick.
Yeah, so it was a sick team, and they did ads and stuff.
They're super sweet too. TJ said on his episode that they kept paying him after. They're like, dude, no, like
they were amazing. Like, they were like so good guys. But during the time when I was riding for them, I had such a hard time to wear a helmet. Like, every time I put the helmet on, it just like constantly reminded me of my accident.
Oh, shit.
Every time.
Yeah, it's like squeezing your head or something.
Yeah, and just like, okay, I'm putting this on now to protect myself from that
after effects of the injury that happened.
So it was like, it felt like I was every time I put the helmet on, it was like, okay, now I'm preparing myself to actually hit my head.
Yeah, yes.
You know what
I do know exactly what you mean.
So I was wearing the helmet, like taking photos and stuff like that for Burn, but I couldn't like ride with it like normally, because it was just like,
we got to work on that. You got to, now that we're old, we got to put on helmets.
Yeah, I know.
People say it to me all the time.
Yeah, I know.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I have a helmet that fits, but then when I see a picture of myself in it, I'm like, it looks so dumb. But I mean, you've got a real physical thing where it's like you put it on, you don't want it on.
So it's so stupid, but it's just like coming from like growing up riding your BMX with your friends.
No helmet.
Like, my parents never ever told me to put a helmet on.
They didn't even have bike helmets when we were kids.
No. So you were like, I remember one time when I was probably like 8 or something, we were playing this thing with our BMX bikes, like, you should like go as fast as you can towards a wall, and you were braking so that the wheels should just like touch the wall.
Barely touch it and do an endo.
Yeah. That was like the sickest. Then I borrowed my friend's BMX bike, and the thing he didn't tell me was he had put, like, on my bike you just like pedal back,
coaster brake.
Yeah. he never told me that. Oh,
His are like handbrakes.
yeah. So I was going so fast, and like I knew there were handbrakes, but I thought it was like, I can just
Also
like,
a coaster brake, yeah.
So I was going so fast that wearing no helmet. And nothing just happened. I couldn't brake, you know.
Oh my God.
Just hit that and like I can't like
head into the wall.
Yeah, and it was just like my teeth. It was like like when you're 8, you still have like
your first teeth, your kid teeth.
So I was like lost. Like there was like probably like 4 or 5 teeth coming out. It was just like I had to have like soup for a week or something.
Yeah, of course,
and it was,
of course.
Like, terrible. That was probably my first
head injury. Yeah,
concussion.
Real concussion. Yeah,
but we went to the hospital. They had a look at me and like, he will be okay. It's like there was like a wound, but was like no.
Yeah. Watch him.
The skull wasn't crushed.
Yeah, make sure he's not falling asleep during the day, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I remember that. That's how it was. I got stitches on my head, and they were like, "Watch his eyes if they go crazy."
So that like also taught me like, oh, I don't need a helmet.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Started skateboarding, never wearing a helmet. So like, and then all of a sudden you're like 20 years old. And maybe then you start seeing a few riders that are really good riders, but you still consider them to be like dorks.
Okay, sure.
And they are wearing helmets.
Yep.
They're, of course, being really smart.
Yes.
But those are the like guys that are taking stuff super seriously.
Right.
Riding for the Swedish national team, whatever.
Totally.
They wear a helmet.
Yeah.
Fuck them. Like, that's like...
Such an attitude. I get it. Okay, let's talk about... Because when did you get sober? You've been sober for 2.5 years? 3 years?
Oh, it's actually today 1747 days.
Holy shit.
So 4 years, 9 months, and whatever.
That's important. This is important.
1747 days today, yeah.
It's day by day. It's every day. That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm still counting.
Yeah, man. No, that keeps you doing it. Yeah. That's great. That's a really, really good run.
Yeah.
Way to go. I mean,
for me, I think it's like every day. It's like when I get, I don't want to ruin this. Like I don't want to, because I've always been like competitive guy.
Perfect.
So, like being now at 1747 days, you're like, but even if I take a sip of a beer, I will be back on 0.
0 days.
I mean, what the fuck? I can't.
You lost a lot of days there.
Yeah, I don't want to lose that. You know?
Yeah.
So that's like a really. I'm sure it's like that for lots of people. You don't want to like. That's like a thing that you are thinking about so much. Like you don't want to go back start on 0 again.
Totally. So how old is your youngest?
He is 6 now. Actually. Yeah.
So this happened after having a third kid.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, the time is right. I'm doing this.
So when I met Louise, it will be, that was like a really big game changer. We were like, I felt like when I met her that we were, it was meant to be. I was like, I never felt that before with anyone. Like I thought with the woman that I had my first kids with, of course, that it was like, but when I met Louise, I felt like it was something completely. I even remember like first time we met. The first time we met, I was telling her about like super deep personal stuff, and it was like, okay, if she's gonna like still be interested, then it's like,
and not run away. That's what the Haven was talking about. Is if you can come to the table as truly who you really are, with your baggage, your life, and the way that you are, and people don't run away, right? Like I notice on your hand, it says stay with. Oh, it says a lot of words.
Stay wild.
Stay wild. So for me, I was like, my own personal trauma is I don't want people to leave, so I'm like, stay.
But I still have a lot of tattoos that are. I think I made so many tattoos that are about where I was in my life at the point that we could have a look at if you want. But there's tattoos that are for like when I didn't care if I died.
Right,
and
of course.
I have I think about a year ago, one of my best friends who's a tattoo artist back home did a tattoo on me that's like, that says "Not today."
Not today.
Yeah.
Sick.
That I have. So, and that's like,
important.
Yeah, and that's like a constant reminder when I look myself in the mirror and see that, like, okay, not today. It's not my time. And I did that for several reasons. Also, because that time when I was in Japan, had that really big crash in Japan and almost died. It was just like a reminder of that, but it's also like, not today. I'm not gonna, if I feel like, even if I go back having like really bad thoughts, like, cause sometimes it happens that I go back and get like suicide thoughts or stuff like that. And it's a reminder that it's not gonna,
I'm not gonna, today.
Yeah. And it's also a reminder that I'm not going to start drinking again.
So rad, dude.
But where were we? Yeah, but so Luis...
We're kind of here, which is this post-trauma hard work that you've done, life, to where, the first time I met you and you dropped the story on me, I was like, that's one of the gnarliest things I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. And meanwhile... here's this guy who's presenting as this really happy snowboarding guy with his wife taking photos of him at Holy Bowly, having a good time. And I'm going, I love this guy. This guy's awesome. What a great attitude. Yeah. And then you tell me of the darkness you've gone through. And I'm like, wow, I'm fucking proud of this dude. Yeah. Like that's actually a big journey that should and will be inspiring to a lot of people, that it's like, look, you took it all the way. You went all the way.
So like with Louise, when I met her, and things was, I mean, she's been the best at all times, but I obviously hadn't stopped drinking and partying when I met her.
Sure.
And even though I think I had slowed down quite a bit, but every time I partied, it was always 110%. I was still like if I were partying with my friends, it was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have a liter of vodka. And,
God,
it's like, it wasn't even like drinking a bottle of vodka. Wasn't even a big deal.
Jeez.
Like,
Yeah, that's a lot.
Like I could have had like 1.5 or without passing out.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
2 26ers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. And
it's 50 people, shots.
People still like laugh about it. Like I drank like vodka like it was water, basically.
Right. It was a part of your persona. It was a part of what you were doing.
Yeah, I didn't get like sick or anything. It was just like
your tolerance was way up here.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Of course.
So.
And unhealthy. That's unhealthy as fuck, dude.
So the big turning point for me, the biggest turning point, I've had a couple, but the biggest turning point, or like the final turning point, I hope, was actually getting in big trouble with the law.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
And pretty much like while previously to that happened, the incident I had with the law, I had stopped taking. I started taking sertraline, like Zoloft.
Okay. Yep.
Back when I met this wonderful doctor, I told you about the female doctor.
Yeah.
And I was starting on Zoloft back then. We did it was the same thing. It was just Zoloft. It was like, take this.
Mood stabilizer.
Yeah. No one knew.
You'll feel happy.
No one knew like the side effects.
Doesn't go well with traumatic brain injuries.
So I was taking Zoloft for as long as it was called Zoloft, and then they dropped their which is called patent. Yeah. And so I had been like on Zoloft or sertraline for like 20 years. But meeting Louise, starting a relationship, moving together with her and everything, and I was like starting to feel life was so good.
Yeah.
I was so happy. And
cool.
Everything was like feeling perfect. So I was like, I'm going to start. I don't need to take this any longer.
Weaning yourself off of it, right?
Yeah. Without talking to any doctor or anything.
Oh, no.
Like, so I did that, and it went like, I thought it went like really well. I was like, I didn't even tell anyone.
I was nervous there.
I didn't even.
That'd be bad.
I didn't even tell anyone for the first like month.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to see if I start acting weird by people around me.
Yeah. Louise, you're like, hey, if I start going crazy.
Yeah. So I quit them and everything was like fine. And I told her after about a month, like, oh, hey, I quit my pills like a month ago. Oh, really? Oh, so, like, that's great. But have you been like, have you noticed any difference? Or no, you've been like normal. Oh, perfect. So not having that, and then I had this like really, I don't think I might have gone into the details last time we spoke about it. I'm not sure I'm going to go into the details about it again, but I had like a thing with the law where the police caught me outside of, I was about to pick up my kids from school.
Yes.
And
that's so gnarly. Right. I remember.
And the kids stopped me, and there was like, there was weed involved.
Yeah,
in that
it's not a big deal here in Canada. It's totally legal,
but in Sweden it's a big deal. It's not like it's.
That's weird because it says it in the name, Sweden.
Yeah. I know.
We're cool with weed, but yeah,
that is something that I had been like using, kept using because I didn't need to drink as much, and I could like relax.
It's a nice feeling for sure.
Yeah. And I also had like, I mean, I had weeds always been there, but at this point it was more like not about smoking to like
party. No, it was like medicine, right?
Yeah, it was medicine, and just to like relax in the evenings, and like when the kid put the kids to bed, and then go out on the balcony and like slow down and like. But yeah, so being like a local famous person in your super small town with like with not even 20,000 people living there, everyone knows who you are, blah blah, the word gets around, and then there's some cops that want to be like, they want to be cops,
make a name for themselves, do a bust.
So they stopped me in front of my children's school.
Oh, that's
just
so
when I'm
lame.
about to pick them up. With like, first there's like a what you call like not painted car, like a
undercover cop
cop car, and it pulls up, and I first thought like, oh, probably my taillight or something.
Yes.
Like I didn't even think about like, there's no way there wasn't
in
even
a million years.
No.
Yeah.
So they pull up and they started asking me questions, and I have to like do the alcohol test, and I'm like, yeah, no problem. So, but then they started asking like more like, oh, you're into like, how is it with like drugs or blah blah blah, and I was like, no. And then there's another cop car pulling up, and then when I know it's like, okay, this is not gonna end up well. So anyway, long story short, I got into like serious trouble because they went through my whole apartment and all that, and
they found weed, and it's against the law.
Yeah.
And they were determined to like...
Yeah, and of course there was like... Yeah, everything that comes with it, like social service and fucking everything.
Oh, man.
And at this point also I had stopped on my sertraline, which I didn't think about, but it was also... Like... your body and your brain get so used to that.
Yeah, of course.
So when you don't have it anymore, it's so easy to like fall back on.
Totally.
So this whole situation with the law was just like so super stressful for me and for Louise and everyone. And I started to get like, took like maybe a couple of months, and I was starting to get like really, really mentally bad. Like I started having panic attacks like from out of the blue. Like
I totally understand. Of course.
Like panic attacks coming, and I had panic attacks before this, but not as strong. And this time it was like, I felt like I was going crazy, you know, it's like I'm losing my mind.
And you'd had to quit weed at this point for sure, right? Like,
yeah.
So you're now...
Yeah. I had to, like, that was like...
Yeah.
Quit.
So your
like,
self-medication's gone completely.
Yeah, that's gone. Yeah. Completely, like...
Your doctor's medication gone.
Yeah.
So you're completely unmedicated.
Yeah.
And you're finding yourself in a stressful situation.
Yeah.
That's beyond.
Yeah. It was just like me and Louise were going to meet my parents that were on vacation down south in Sweden. We were driving down there, and we had like it was the whole family. And I was out with my dad taking a walk with the dog. And I remember it so well because all of a sudden, when we were out talking, I just had a blackout. And I was like,
holy shit.
Like, Dad, what were we talking about? Like, I couldn't even remember what we were talking about. Just like total blackout from nowhere. I was like, so I told my dad, like, we just sat down and I told my dad, like, I think I'm getting like crazy. I think I'm losing my mind. I've had like started to have panic attacks, and I talked to my dad about it. And coming back to the house, I was telling Louise like how this happened, and like I feel like, and after that was just getting like worse.
Oh.
So I called up Hans, is his name, my therapist, and because I was like, who else should I speak to? So I called him, and he like didn't answer the call right away because it was like, I think it was even on the weekend or anything. But I had like his phone number for so many years because he gave me his phone number when I was like super suicidal. Like, you can call me anytime you want.
Yeah.
And I called him and said, this is what's happening. And I quit the sertraline like earlier because we hadn't spoken for about a month.
Yeah.
So I quit sertraline, and now this is happening. And he said, oh, okay, I'm going to get you to meet a doctor, and then you come and see me next week. And like, I met the doctor that said like, okay, you can't, like, you've been taking sertraline for like 20 years. You have to, like, there's going to be a slight chance that you're going to be able to live without it at all. You have to like
wean your way off.
Yeah. Like for like 2 or 3 years, he said. Because you were on the highest dose. And so it's going to be like probably a couple of years of just like.
So did you do that? Did you follow his advice?
It was like, so we have to get you back. First, we have to get you back on this.
Right.
But we can't get you back on it like, so we have to get you back on it slowly.
Right.
And the thing is,
they're suggesting a slow back to where you were and then a slow off.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, when I started taking it like over 20 years ago, I didn't feel like any side effects at all. But when I started again this time, I was having like the worst side effects ever.
Wow.
Like, there were like months where I was like, I couldn't sleep at all. I was just like having panic attacks.
Oh God.
Like panic attack all through the night. Like,
that sucks.
Like all the time.
It's not working.
And I was just like, this is when the whole alcohol thing happened. I was like, I'm not going to have any drink. I'm not going to have like any drink. I'm not going to do any substances or anything ever again. If I get through this, if I can live like a normal life again, because it was so terrible. I was like afraid of like, I didn't want to end my life, but I was like feeling so bad for over a year that like pretty much like every day I thought about like ending my life. And the only reason I didn't was because of Louise and the kids. They were like, I can't do this because they want to have a dad anymore.
You're motivated to get through it.
Yeah, that was my motivation.
That's
was just
incredible.
like I have to somehow I have to become normal again. But I was like a wreck, like a total wreck. Like I was like having panic attacks, going like just stepping outside of the door, and like I couldn't like see people. Like there was like one of my friends, best friends that I could like see.
Yeah.
And it was like the weirdest like withdrawal to like going back, like talk about heavy drugs. Like actually like because when I started with it, no one was even talking about like this is something that could happen, or like this is what the thing the sertraline does to your brain and to your
full system.
To your full system. So like what I've had was probably like that was like probably like quitting on heroin or something, you know.
Exactly.
It was like the heaviest withdrawal, and then I had to like start again, and it was just like it was terrible. So I was like, I'm not gonna do anything that's bad for me. I'm not gonna like I'm quitting like everything. I'm not gonna have like a snooze, or I'm not gonna have like
that's a hard one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like fucking I just want to heal my brain.
Junk food? How about junk food?
No, I was like I started to like getting like really into it, because I was like, I'm gonna fucking survive this, you know, for my family. Like that was like the only thing I was thinking about. I'm gonna come back. And so I was like only reading about like brain food, like healthy, like what can you do, like what kind of food helps you with, is good for like helps you with anxiety, all of that stuff. Like
how long before you started to see
bananas, blueberries, fucking everything? Like
how long before you start to see a benefit from this? Like if there's listeners out there right now that haven't started yet.
It's probably different for everyone, because I was also like leveling up the sertraline again.
Yeah.
But I mean, 2 years, like where the year one was like pretty much like pitch black.
Yep.
Like wanted to die at least one time every day.
Jesus.
And
that was right before I met you, right? Like that was that year leading up to 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And second year coming here was the year when I was like starting to like feel myself again. And that's why I also like COVID was gone. And
I forgot.
It was COVID as well. So you like imagine the whole like everything was going crazy.
Just everything all at the same time.
At the same time, it's just like fuck.
It's nuts.
So but I think like about 2 years.
What's the main difference that you're like, if there's something that sums up like the difference between before and now, like what's the main difference? Like do you still wake up in the morning with a headache and brain fog and that kind of thing?
The main difference is like, I think today, I don't think I've been in this good shape. Physically, at least, not mentally, but physically, I haven't been in this good shape since I was like in probably like my late teens, early 20s.
That's cool.
Like I can hike like when we go hiking, like in the winters, it's like it's always me that's the first.
Yeah,
it's like
there's that competitive guy.
Yeah, everyone says that, like, you're a fucking mountain goat.
Yeah,
you know?
cool.
I'm like, I have like so much more energy, and I have. I wouldn't say that. Like, of course, I'm not happy that I've gone through all the shit.
Right, of
that
course.
I've gone through, but at the same time, today I have the tools that I wouldn't have the other way around. You know, like I have the tools, like, to look at things. Always look at things from other perspectives, and like when I have a really bad day and start to feel like shitty and stuff, I usually can get myself through it pretty like easy, because I have the tools to like how I should think and what I should do and all that I wouldn't have had any other way, you know. Like it's weird to say, but it's like you come out, it's like I come out on the other side like a completely different person. I'm still the same in a way, but I'm also a totally different person in another way. It's like today I also like the thing you were talking about yesterday, like making other people feel good is a way like to happiness, and like,
for me,
and that is something that I've been like practicing for the last 4 years. Like I've always been trying to like give back and like been strong like advocate for Save the Children for over 20 years and stuff like that, but now even more, because now it's like it feels like I got my life back. It's like I survived and I got my life back, and it's like, damn, it's like today it's like doesn't matter. It's like if there's a day when I can't, that I don't feel like, oh, I can't like perform, like I feel like I can't snowboard too well today, it's like, whatever.
Yeah,
it's
don't beat yourself up over it like the old days.
It's like whatever. Like I've been through so much worse.
Hell yeah.
I've been through hell.
Yes.
And so this is peanuts. Like, you know, it's like, so, and like what I had that has been like the most important thing, I think, is that I met Hans, my therapist, that I could speak to about anything, and I still had him to call.
Yep.
Now he's happily retired.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for him, but I still had him, and I had Louise that was like fucking by my side when I was like completely like sweating through nights, month after month, like telling her that I'm going insane, like and she was there like the whole time, like,
oh, what a sweetheart,
like every time, never ever like got mad or angry or like just 100% supported me the whole time. Like, we're gonna make this, you're gonna make this, we're gonna make this together, like 100%. And
such great strength. That's cool.
Yeah. That's like, I'm 100%, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for her. Like, sorry, I forget. Like,
thanks,
it's
Luis.
like, it's like, I probably would have, like, I don't know, somehow it would have ended like really bad.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm fucking so glad that you're here. And I mean, over the last 2 years, we've kept in touch and talked about such like lighthearted stuff compared to how heavy this is. But it's so important that people.
That's why I wanted to try. Like, I don't know how this is going to come out. I know the last time I don't even know how it
was
came
just
out.
Technical last time.
But it's like, I think if it could help anyone out there that is struggling with like mental health, and because that's what it is from day one, pretty much. Like, it's not about going from drugs to bad mental health or the other way around. It's like,
they're together.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, of course they are.
Yeah. So if this can help anyone with like mental health issues or like struggling with addiction or anything, it's just like that. Then it's worth it. It's like, and once again, like what Laura is doing is like, damn, if we had that like 20 years ago, or
right. I mean, that's the
then
thing.
we wouldn't have had this chat.
Yeah, man.
Then it would have been completely different. But yeah.
Well, PJ, thanks for sharing your story, and thanks for being a good friend the last couple of years.
Thank you, man.
I can't wait to go to Sweden.
Yeah, man, you have to. Yeah.
And check it out. My wife
You're
really wants
always
to go.
welcome.
Yeah, and there's.
Stay at our cabin.
Oh my God, that just sounds so incredible.
Yeah,
and really thank you for staying here.
Yeah.
Like for pushing through difficult times.
Yeah.
And the number one thing is for making yourself important enough to take care of. I think that's a big key.
Yeah.
Is like not losing the fact that, I've definitely felt like a big piece of shit throughout times in my life.
Yeah.
And even yesterday sharing at the mental wellness thing, I was like, fairly personal about like, sometimes it just doesn't feel like what you're doing is meaningful or helpful or whatever.
No.
But, so thank you for keeping it together.
Yeah.
Especially for your kids, for your boys, and for Louise and for yourself. Like you're a person that's totally worth it.
Yeah.
For
and like
effort like
to
that.
everyone out there, like snowboarding is like, it's the best, but at the end of the day, like you're the one that counts. It's not your sponsors, it's not your Instagram account or whatever. Like, take care of yourself first, and check in on your buddies and your family, and like check in on those you love, because like I said, like you can't tell if someone is like having really, really shitty time. Like sometimes you can, but most of the times you can't tell at all. So yeah, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.
That was such a great clip and a really nice place to end.
Yeah.
Thank you, PJ. Thanks for
you,
everything.
Eric.
Let's go take a lap. It's
snowing out there.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's dumping.
Dope.
Sick.
FNRad shoutouts this week to PJ Gustafsson and his partner Louise. Special thanks to our great friend and past guest Crush Kuliza, who builds and hosts events like Holy Bowly, where I first met PJ. If you ever get the chance to attend a Snowboy event, you're going to be stoked. Don't forget to buy merch and earn entries into the chance to win a PJ Pro model from Death Label Snowboards, with all proceeds going to Save a Brain Foundation. Hey Patreon subscribers, you guys rule. Thank you. Come back next week for more FNRad Snowboarding, presented by Flojoy Water and brought to you by FNRad Productions.